to me, science is not very different from belief systems, from perspectives, from intangible things to, to help us kind of like modify or engineer our own feelings, our own thoughts. We have to engineer our own patterns. That's what I learned actually through in my journey. It's our responsibility to say to ourselves, what do I need to change in me, in my thought process? So death always brings that really crazy invitation to see life, at least in that moment, from this very raw perspective that life is short. So when someone is going through pain like that, perspective is very important. And I was sharing actually with my daughter, let me put this in here. So this is a crystal. And trust me, I mean, I'm not into the whole crystal thing. I just find them very beautiful. And again, there is a belief out there that crystals have very beneficial aspect of healing. And I said, okay, you know what? I might not believe it 100% because I don't know much about it. That must be why. But if it's saying it is good, I find it very beautiful, I'm gonna buy it, because just looking at it, it's a beautiful stone. I like it. So I was using these as an example to my daughter, and I said, baby, death. I was talking about death, right? Because again, it's something that has been, unfortunately, in this past 3 months of being very latent. It's just here, like just 3 people have died in less than 3 months, right? So she has seen many people that she loves crying. Now, I told her that life, in many ways, is like this stone. Now, let's put that in this case. This is the person that we love, and this person have passed away. And I said to her, nothing changes. The person is still gone. The person's not going to come back. But what can change is, if you think about this part of, let's look at this part of this stone, right? When we look at this part, it has certain shape. We can think about it as a perspective. I'm all alone. My life is never going to be the same. I think I'm going to develop. Who knows what's going to happen to me? I don't know if I can take this pain. And then life continues, and you're still looking at this. You're looking at the situation from this side. But still, the person is gone. The stone is not changing. The crystal is not changing simply because I'm looking it through here. Now, what perspective does is we can look at the same stone. We can look at the same exact situation that's happening in our lives that is very, very difficult. In this case, we're talking about death, so the death of someone. And we should start taking the stones or the crystals in our lives, all the difficult situations that we have, all the very emotionally, mentally difficult situations that we have, and we should start looking at that situation from multiple sides or perspective, and choose the belief system that will give you the most peace, that will give you the most I will say peace. I'm going to stay with that. So what do I mean? Again, if you're someone that's very pragmatic, if you're someone that's very logical, and logic kind of drives every aspect of your life, raw logic, you barely see yourself kind of in the realm of subjective reality and like higher intelligence. Now, if you, on the other hand, do have a belief system, and when you look at that situation, when you look at that stone, try to find whatever it is within you that you can try to look at it that makes it better, because nothing is going to revive these people, bring them back from from death, right? And bring them back to life. Nothing. So what I learned is I personally like to see their journey before they were sick into sickness, and then, when the body's lifeless, as a cycle, as a very normal cycle. It's a cycle of life, because the same process of being born as a baby and then being all lively, and then something happens before your death. In this case, is if the person passed away because of an accident, it's a little bit different. But what I'm saying is every single situation carries within itself a lesson. And it's important for us to take, not a lesson, it has perspective, it brings us perspective. And it's up to us. This is really part of healing too. It is really up to us to see that situation, that event, that experience in many different ways. There's a red tanager right there. Okay, in many different ways, because perspective, that's what it allows us to do. Now choose one. Choose the one that brings you more peace, even if it goes against some of your logical thought process. Because at the end of the day, even your logical thought process is not going to make it better. In medicine, there is huge research for the placebo effect. And this is pretty much what it is. And I'm not sugarcoating it. But if it makes your life better to acquire a certain perspective or a certain belief system, even if it's just about a specific situation in your life, for example, the death of someone. In my case, I like to see it as they are no longer in pain. They're not being held hostage by their body, who was simply torturing them. The body was giving up on them. Or I like to say, maybe, who knows, in the bigger picture, in the bigger picture, there was something that they needed to do that has nothing to do with the body. Maybe they just needed a different type of freedom that the body simply cannot give them. And there is a journey that they need to embark on, and they have to go. Or I like to say to myself, it doesn't matter. I guess I have gotten to a point where it doesn't matter what kind of like exact belief I have about the situation. What matters to me is that I'm choosing to see the situation in ways that make me feel better, not only in that moment, but that allows me to do life kinder. Because if your belief system, if the perspective that you're choosing to see that stone from, again, this crystal, if you're choosing one that's like, okay, you know what, it's numbing you. How do you know it's numbing you? In the beginning it is. Everything is numbing in the beginning. It's one of the stages of death, of grief. So be kind with yourself. Many of us, and I have gone through it, we're gonna be numb. It's like, I'm not feeling anything, or I don't understand what happened, and I'm kind of like in limbo. At least it happened to me. For some people it's different, but I know for many people it has happened. Now, once, it's very important to maintain, to turn this crystal, turn this stone in so many directions, so many ways, until you find one perspective that you can still see the stone. Because it's not about pretending that the stone doesn't exist. It's not about pretending that the person didn't die. I had someone like that, and that's not healthy. The person is gone, and there is a cycle to life, and it's a very normal cycle. It's just that attachment, at least is the perspective I like to think. Attachment has we have been learning that death is such a horrible and sad thing. I like to think of it as it's a normal process. It happens to everything that we see. It happens to the stars. It happens to a tree. It happens to everything. Everything needs the cycle of death. In order for things to grow, all the things have to die. And it's just a balance the way things are. Now, I understand there's some things that are incredibly painful. And this is why we need to be able to see that stone, which is that incredibly painful situations, incredibly painful events in many ways. We have to turn that. We have to try to see multiple perspectives of that situation and try to maintain the perspective that gives you the most peace. It doesn't matter if it's involving a religious concept. It doesn't matter if it's involving pseudoscience mentality, when you have always been so pragmatic, for example. Choose whatever works for you, but again, make sure that that perspective is making you in the long run. Don't expect too much in the moment, just little by little. Every day you're like, you know what? I'm going to choose to see that the person is no longer in pain. I'm going to choose to see that if I were in that situation, I think I would be okay also to leave, because I don't want to suffer and I don't want to see people around me suffering. Try to see the situation from the perspective that brings you the most, again, peace, but also makes you kinder in the long run. And this is the part that takes the longest. Pain, emotional pain, severe trauma, or emotional pain due to unexpected situations or even expected events, like when someone is sick and dies, or in the long term has the potential for an amazing gift into our lives, and is this exactly what I'm sharing with you. It has helped many people. When you are put in a position to advise, or for people to look, they look up to you and say, Natalie, help me, say something. And they're not saying it in words, they're saying it with their eyes. They're saying it with the need, right? The phone calls they make for you, you just know they need you. This is why I'm sharing it, because it has helped many people. I had a friend who anyway, that's where I know it's a different one. So can be very, I'll share that one some other time. So again, I just hope that you find the perspective that works the best for you. And if you don't have it, if you turn the situation and you look at it from so many angles, and you still cannot find something that you say, you still are in that very painful process. But again, you got to give yourself time. The pain is not going to go away ever. It just gets better. But trust me, it really does get much, much, much better. It just becomes more like there's a part of an attachment that it never leaves. We're still attached at a certain level. But the perspective really helps us to be more free, helps us to maintain a level of clarity about the event, the situation, the death, the passing, the accident. Because that's a very hard one too. One of my best friends died in a car accident recently, and that's really tough. But again, perspective does help. In perspective, if you don't find it after, give yourself some time to grieve and go through the pain, and know it's gonna pass, it's gonna get better. Find throughout this entire process, if you can have a therapist, 100%, I highly recommend have a therapist. If you don't have the means for a therapist, or you just don't have a therapist to rely on, this again, go and try to find a belief system, a perspective that will help you. Go knock on doors. Go to different schools of thoughts, as I call it. Go into different religions or different modalities. There's so many perspectives, right? It's the New Age perspective. There is the ancient perspective of the Vedas. There is modern psychology. There is so many perspectives. Get the one that brings the most peace, the most balance, because nothing is ever going to bring them back in the physical form that we're used to see them. But again, perspective does brings them back, and you can connect in many different beautiful ways, because when we open our hearts, and I hope you find a perspective that is directly related with your heart, with the heart, because when we involve our love, when we involve the unity that the heart has, because when we love, we're not thinking this person is this background, this person is this person looks like that. We just love, right? Like when you love something or you love someone, it's kind of like your eyes, the details that your eyes are looking at, they just fade away. You just love that person, whether it's your kids, your partner, you just love them. And in the same way that you kind of are blinded or blind to see many things because of love, the same thing happens when you lose someone that you love. You know, little by little you start acquiring this beautiful way of seeing them through your heart, through the love that you have for them. And it sounds cliche, it sounds like, okay, she's on something. But it's true. And that's when I say, look for the perspective that brings you the most peace. It doesn't matter if it goes against some of the thought patterns that you have had for so many years. Because to me it happened. I was very pragmatic. I was like, well, life is, most of the time, is black and white. But then that wasn't really helping me to move on from the many losses and some of the trauma that I had to endure. And I noticed that through this 10-year plus journey of healing and seeking answers in so many different schools of thoughts, in so many different sects, cults, religions, I ended up just being okay in all of them. I love Christianity. That was the one I actually was running from. And I am so okay because I have experienced others and I have chosen to see the commonalities between those. And the commonality is very beautiful. The common things among the different sects and New Age perspectives in psychology is always to bring us to the understanding. Most psychology, I don't know, is to bring us to a better state of mind, a better state of self. And sometimes it's to bring us to the awareness or hoping to acquire a belief system that allows us to see beyond our physical selves, our physical body, and beyond the physical body of someone else, so we can still experience their love, the love that we have for one another, the unity that there is in everything. So I seriously, and it's what I try to do with the families when they're going through stuff, when I do with me and the people around me. I try to just offer perspective. Try to remind yourself of this crystal or any crystal, and think of the crystal or the stone or as that situation. If it's not death, some other situation, because it's the same thing goes for anything in life. Look for the perspective that brings you the most peace, and sometimes that requires for us to adopt a new set of belief system because it will make us better. Choose the one that makes you better, even if it has a lot to do with going back sometimes our own religion, the one we used to be so against. I used to be so against Christianity. I'm like, yo, this is crazy. This is the entire reason for wars, and it is true. But it's because people are seeing, people are not listening to the message in these religions, because we see it as religion. To me, it's a school of thought. They're just trying to give you a perspective about something. Choose the one that works for you, or choose a little bit of everything. Just make sure you engineer a belief system within yourself. It can be about you. Like I said, a new age is all about you, the I am. Doesn't matter. It's still the same thing. Choose one that makes you kinder with other people, makes you kinder with yourself, brings you peace, because there are many belief systems. Again, I was practicing many of them for years. That yes, you kind of like, oh, I have inner peace, I have all these things, but I noticed I was very separated from many people. I was constantly looking for things that were separating me from other people. I was, from my dietary choices to my lifestyle choices, were separating me constantly from people that wanted to love me and bring more love into my life, because they cared about me. And I was keeping this distance because I don't want drama. And I understand everything plays its part in our journey. Everything is important, But my invitation is, try to find the one that makes you kinder, that brings you the most peace, and that you can maintain that. And you see how many things in your life start becoming more beautiful. Really, it really does. Pain is still pain, but when you give perspective to pain, it changes. It changes the way you see it, so it changes the way you feel. But the situation might still be the same. But many times situations do change also. When it comes to death, death is death. When it comes to healing, sometimes I have seen crazy recoveries. And I have seen also the faith that people have had. And some of the faith had nothing to do with God. A type of faith that just, I don't know, just transformed. But let's just stay away from religion. I'm just using that word. I use school of thought. It's an invitation to have perspective, to just see things in a different way. This is what we need to do in many aspects of our lives. We need to learn how to see things in many different ways and choose the one. Turn that stone until you find the angle, the perspective that brings you the most, that makes your life better. Okay? Well, thank you, and I hope this helps. I really do.